morning, everyone. I'm your host, Patrick Prudhomme, and I'm here with my amazing, wonderful co-host,
Ryan Fuentes.
Ryan Fuentes. Folks, you're looking at us and you're like, something's different. Something's not right. You got Brian over here looking like the Star Spangled Banner. Oh, say, can you see him? You got me over here in my black and burgundy and all the in the tie. That
exactly the tie. You never wear the tie in here.
Never wear the tie.
But no, something special happening today.
Exactly. This is the tie that started it all. This is the tie that we wore when we first started the show on day one. This is the tie. Now, for those of you who are like, what's going on? What's so special? Well, folks, we just had our anniversary. Our 100-day anniversary of Donald J. Trump being president. Each outfit represents what we feel after 100 days.
Plus two.
Because we got to have the two.
Yep.
Okay. I'll start. The tie, the shirt, the jacket. This emboldens the tie was wore on day one. After 100 days, I'm feeling new beginnings. I still feel like we're on day one, and I'm not tired of winning just yet. So I threw on the tie that started the Patriots Den off. The tie that kicked off the show officially being on Radiodabang, because we know Patriots Den lived before that, but now it's on Radiodabang. This is the tie that kicked it off. New beginnings in America, as Trump liked to call it, the golden era. I was tied between wearing this or a white shirt and gold tie, because golden era. I was like, but we're going to go with new beginnings. New beginnings, I feel that. It connects with me a little more. Brian, what about you?
You know, it's a very simple design. You know, it's the best design, frankly. It's not violating a flag code either. Okay. It just so happens to have stripes and stars. Ooh. It's not made out of a flag, though, so it doesn't violate flag code.
No flag code violation.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I thought
so,
me, didn't
I have this beautiful design inspired by the most beautiful flag ever created to represent, you know, the best country on earth, receiving one of the best leaders we've had in decades, reaching their second 100 days of the presidency. Two times. Isn't it like the fourth president in all of U.S. history to beat an incumbent after?
I feel like it's less than that.
Really?
Maybe four, but if it's less than that. You know, Trump. But that's what I love about Trump is it's that
he's so unique. He sets so many new standards.
Exactly. It's that uniqueness. Everyone knows I never put tie color on top of shirt color. Like if it's got a cross, I don't do that. But it's unique like our president. It's unique. I love that President Trump has literally came in and changed the spectrum of politics. And if we're going to look at his first 100 days here, I want us to also look at his first 100 days in his first term. I got into this movement 9 years ago. 9 years ago. I had my boots on the ground 9 years ago. When he first announced in 2016, I had to make America Great Again shirt. I was, all in for Trump in 2016. And to see it do a full scale 9 years later, for me to sit here and go 100 years, I'm still in the movement, I'm still in the fight, and I'm still on the same side. I started, and there was no flip-flopping. You can't say I flip-flopped. I never did. I stayed where I am. And that's the uniqueness of Trump. Trump brought people into politics that beforehand would have never thought they were in politics.
Yeah, no, I mean, genuinely, he did mobilize a lot of people into politics because whether you're left or right, he brought that into the spotlight. He was a reality star, superstar. Like, back then, he was all over the place. You see all these movies nowadays, like the older ones, you're like, did they say Trump? Did they just mention that glorious man in Hollywood? I thought they hated the guy.
Right.
But no, this guy is genuinely like once in a generation. And the fact that he's our president is just, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're looking at it, and we're going to get into the numbers and everything, but just the model-esque of what Trump has done. He brought in people like Kash Patel, who never would have seen something like FBI director. He went in, and people were like, well, these people aren't qualified. They're not, the high-ranking generals that we're used to. Yeah, because these are the people that were actually in the field doing the day-to-day job, right? They know the issues. They know what's wrong. They know what needs to be fixed. That's how any good company should run, right? Peer review, basically. You put these kind of people in power because that's how Trump ran his business. That's how he ran his business.
Yeah.
I was watching one of the shows called Undercover Boss.
That's an amazing show.
Right? And Trump, has an episode in Undercover Boss where he goes into the field to see, okay, what is the people that I can't really talk to on a day-to-day basis, what is it like for them?
How do you do that though? Because he's so recognizable.
Honestly, it was the wig, and they do a great job, the makeup and everything like that.
Oh, so they like make makeup and everything, like change his hair and everything.
Oh yeah, he was a janitor.
I don't know if this is the same thing. I remember seeing a skit of that at least
on Saturday Night Live, where he was the janitor for another guy. But he went to the field, he got to work, and he went back to being Donald Trump, and was like, this is what they need fixed. These are areas that need to be expanded. He did the same thing in politics. He came down to the lower level, like people like me and you, who didn't necessarily know what was going on, talked to us and said, hey, what's the problem? What's actually going on? And he went in and he's implementing things for the voiceless.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. 2016. Mm-hmm. What did they call the reason, or was one of the reasons they said Trump won? Say it with me. It was I guess not. Silent majority.
Silent majority. Oh, yes. If you would have started it and slowed it down, I would have caught on. Yeah, the silent majority.
I figured as such. I was like, there's no way Trump does not know. Or Patrick, sorry.
No, I got it.
That's an amazing compliment, by the way. Confusing you with Trump.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's a silent majority. And as you said, he gave the voice to the voiceless. A lot of people, including yourself, got into politics because of Trump. I mean, sure, you could say a lot of people got into the left side of politics because of Trump, but I mean, I'm just saying.
Bless him. Right.
80 million votes for Biden.
And the second time around. No way to be found.
Yeah, no, I mean, convenient, COVID shut everything down. We're not conspiracy theorists or anything, but, the math doesn't work. Where did 17 million people go? Because I don't know, man. I feel like this time around it was a lot more serious with people wanting to vote for Kamala over Trump if they were so anti-Trump. But no, I guess 17 million people just died after COVID.
No.
Crazy, man. It was the biggest tragedy in American history. 17 million people dying after voting for Biden.
People were scared to go outside, but 81 million were able to go out and vote for Biden.
Testament to democracy.
Literally, we love democracy. But no, in 2016, I was looking at something because they were showing like Trump's approval rating at an all-time low and things like that. Because he released this Trump 2028 hat, and so I was looking, and there was this person, they posted a graphic from 2016, right before polls closed, and it said Hillary Clinton. You remember this? 91%.
Yep.
Donald J. Trump, 8% chance of winning the election. And the caption was, remember guys, polls don't lie. Trump had an 8% chance of winning that election, according to that poll, when the election started. Throughout the night, we saw how it was going, and they were like, what was they calling it? The Red Mirage. No, it's just a Red Mirage. We'll come back around eventually. It never happened. They lost.
It was just like this time around. Once Pennsylvania went red, it was over. It was over at that point.
It was over.
And the crazy thing was Florida as well. Like, it's crazy to think about, but just 12 years ago, Florida was a battleground state. Like, it was blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, and now it's...
Obama won it twice, back to back.
Exactly, but now it's a Republican stronghold,
It's gone red 3 times in a row. It's no longer even considered a battleground. They don't even look at it as a battleground.
And that's like crazy to think about, because like whenever people think about politics, they think, oh yeah, it's just these battleground states. These have always been the states that need to be won, but like no, they come and go. And I could even argue Ohio is no longer a battleground state either.
It's not. Ohio's no longer a battleground. Florida's no longer a battleground. And I think if we keep moving, Arizona, it's funny to me that's now Arizona, we can argue was a battleground. We can argue Trump won it twice, Obama won it once. Biden won it once. We could argue that the Blue Wall, that was once not battleground. It was literally called the Blue Wall. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Those 3 states are what decide your election. They always vote together. They called it the Blue Wall because Barack Obama was consistently winning it comfortably. Comfortably. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win all 3 states comfortably. What happened? Trump wins all 3. He wins all 3. Biden comes around, Biden wins all 3. Trump comes back, he wins all 3. Those are battleground states that people just don't truly understand.
Well, here's my question, though. Why do you think that is? Like, these states, the Rust Belt, if you will, why would they vote for Trump? Trump has been so big business, so pro-capitalism. Why would these states who are known for their powerful unions vote for Trump?
And that's great. You look at did you watch the DNC?
Who didn't? Or who did?
Who did, right? Who did? The DNC, no one watched it. That's number one. Number two, the president of the union, like Brotherhood or something like that, I can't remember the exact name of the union, but he wasn't allowed to speak at the DNC because he spoke where?
At the RNC.
And when he spoke at the RNC, he didn't endorse President Trump. He didn't endorse Kamala. He didn't endorse the Democrats. He didn't endorse the Republicans. He got on the stage and said, hey, listen, all of you millions of Americans at home, all of you thousands in this arena, Mr. President sitting right there in that booth, we the people want answers. We the people want accountability. He gave a checklist of what we the people wanted and said, and if you win, we're asking that you fulfill this. And he was going to go to the Democrats and give them that exact same checklist and say, hey, if you win, this is what we want. The Democrats have forgotten what their values are. And this reminds me, people are like, well, what about right now, moving forward? Will the Democrats be able to win? You know Charlie Kirk's going on this tour, right? Charlie Kirk's going on this tour. He's going to all the colleges.
I'm sorry.
He's going to all the colleges. And
Charlie Kirk is a joke. I'm sorry.
He's an interesting guy. I think that what he's doing, the college tour, I think is great. I think the college tour is great because it's actually making people. Well, I remember me and you had a conversation with somebody at our college who was like, how do I get involved?
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk is how you get involved.
He's a gateway drug, I may not like the guy, but he is a gateway drug into conservatism.
He's making the Gen Z men go, something's not right here. Well, Charlie Kirk is going on these tours to the college campuses, talking to Gen Z, making them question their values, right? If they're left wing, and just truly invoking thought. The people that are Republican but not Republican, to the point where they can stand on those values, he's making them challenge themselves. Well, the Democrats have this great idea of following Charlie Kirk around on tour. And there's these two content creators called Dean and Parker. I'm not sure if you know who they are, but Dean and Parker. And it's a bunch of there was like 50 creators. It's like 50 TikTok influencers. And they went to Texas A&M, and they created a tour called the Un-F America Tour. Now, the F word, it's the F word. Un-F word America Tour, right? They followed Charlie Kirk to Texas A&M. They had 50 people. 50 people showed up to listen to 50 people speak. And they used all their money that the tour had raised on that one trip. Right? You think, okay, who cares?
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk goes to another state to do the tour. So what does the Un-F America Tour go? They try to go to the other state. While they were going to the other state, there's the person that puts the show together. Z. That's her name. Her name is Z. Mm-hmm. She gets on a TikTok live.
It's a great name, by the way.
Yeah, Z-E-E. She gets on a TikTok live with a bunch of black women. And they're all content creators, basically, saying their frustrations with the tour. This is how I know Republicans are going to continue to win. Because on that live stream, Z is like, well, what we did, we messed up the first time. All good things take time. I'll give her that. And, we messed up here. We didn't think this completely through. It was a little bit rushed. But this next one we're going to do great at. Do you know what these women were mad at?
No, Pat.
The black women were mad because they felt that they didn't have enough time to speak. And that they were kind of grouped and pushed to the back. You didn't have a place. You were standing on a corner. It's 50 of you. What did you think was going to happen when 50 people are set to speak and there are 50 people in attendance? With maybe less than an hour? What did you think was going to happen? So then, the black women they're yelling at her. They're yelling at her. And they're like, no, you're a bully, blank, 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 blank. Mm-hmm. And now Z's trying to talk over them. They're saying, you talk when we tell you to talk. Imagine if the roles were over. Imagine if a white person told a black person, you speak when we tell you to speak.
You ready for it to happen?
Please, right? So they're doing all of this. And Z is like, no, you're the bully. No, you're the bully. So now there's this back and forth. Well, what do you think they said Z was after that little argument?
Say it with me. A racist. We did it. We actually got it on cue. Amazing.
And then they started this whole thing called anti-blackness in America. What is anti-blackness in America, you may ask? Well, there's this lady. She gets on here. She's 400 pounds. She's 400 pounds in her early 20s.
You sure she got up there?
She got up there. She was laying down in the video. But she was laying down with a charcuterie board with grapes, Cheez-Its, crackers, and cheese.
I think there's some powdered sugar in the corner, too.
Probably. She didn't show the whole thing. But she was like, the reason America doesn't have universal health care, the reason America has taxes, the reason America has blank, 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 everything the Democrats, want, it's because of anti-blackness. The reason we don't have universal health care is because they don't want black people to have health care. What? The reason they keep raising the taxes is because they won't tax the black folk. What? Like, it would, and it kept going. And so Z is now this racist. She's anti-black. And they go, the Democrats and the Republicans are the same thing, except one lies about being racist. The Republicans are openly racist. Well, then, Dean and Parker are, kind of dragged in, and they're like, hey, you should quit the tour because the person that put the tour together is racist. And Dean and Parker go, well, it seems like to me it was just like a regular little argument on TikTok Live. Here's the rebuttal. No, Z is racist, and the only reason you're allowing her Z to be racist is because when you go to college campuses, you are talking to racist, straight white males, and you want to be able to agree with them on being racist, but vote blue. Be a racist, but vote blue. That's why they put y'all up. Dean and Parker are two straight white men. What I find is that the Democrat Party that is coming up, it's literally a group of victims, quote unquote, a bunch of people with victimhood mentality, right? And you put a bunch of people with victimhood mentality in a room, what do you think is going to happen?
I don't know, Pat, but it sounds like it won't be very fun.
It won't be fun because now there's a competition of who can be the better victim. Just like athletes on the field. Who can run faster? Who can talk louder? Who can catch the ball better? Who can throw the farthest? Well, when you put a bunch of victims in a room, the question is who can be the better victim? That's what the Democrat Party is now. It's a fight of, okay, which one of us is going to be the better victim? Okay, bam, you're the better victim. You go run for election. Within Trump's first 100 days, he has genuinely twisted their brains. They're losing their minds, and they don't know where to go. They're lost. They're confused.
I mean, this is Trump's America,
Yeah.
These people were saying it's all going to end, the world's going to end, America's going to be over. And I guess you could argue they weren't wrong. But it's over for them, not for the average American who actually, has at least one brain cell in their head. But, I mean, as you said, what happens now? I mean, Trump, I'm guessing on purpose at this point, destroyed the Democratic Party through his victory.
Yeah.
And now it's just so disorganized, and that's the issue. We're 5 months into the new year. Mm-hmm. We're almost halfway done, and there's still no sign of the Democrat Party refixing itself. Mm-hmm. And we have all these local elections coming up pretty soon, and it's once again
no sign of they're in shambles. There was a poll that recently came out of saying who the Democrats should put up as their nominee in 2028, and it said Bernie Sanders was leading the poll.
That man's dead by then.
The fact that I hope he makes it, but nobody in America is going to vote for Bernie Sanders.
I would disagree. I think a lot of people would vote Bernie Sanders. Do I think there are a majority that would win an election? No.
No one's voting for the guy.
But I think a lot of people who...
Just like no one voted for Kamala.
A lot of people who espouse socialistic values and, coincidentally also enjoy $20 Starbucks coffees...
Mm-hmm. And private jets.
Mm-hmm. Really do like Bernie Sanders, and unfortunately, that would give him a lot of support. It would be the funniest thing ever, seeing a senile Bernie go against basically whatever Trump puts up there.
Donald Trump Jr., J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, anybody. Nikki Haley can get up there.
Let's get rid of the age requirement. Let's get Barron Trump on that stage.
Literally, anybody can go up and dog walk Bernie Sanders in a debate. Socialism doesn't work, and it's simple, right? But the Democrat Party, they're literally just a bunch of victims now.
That's
true. They have no standing.
But I have a question then. Because unfortunately, it's not like the Republican Party is doing amazing right now either. Mm-hmm. We don't have that same energy we did in 2020 post-loss or even before the election. Mm-hmm. We had a good amount of energy leading up to 24, but granted, our president got shot in the ear, almost assassinated.
Right.
Of course we're going to have energy. They almost try to kill our man on national television. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's like the second time CNN has ever like streamed a Trump speech.
No, CNN streams Trump's speeches quite often, actually.
No, like live, not the replays of it.
Live.
They do.
Yeah, so whenever he was doing his press conferences or something, they'd be like, all right, President Trump's about to speak.
Oh, that's a press conference, not a rally.
Even rallies, they'd be like, he's about to take the stage, let's tune in. And they'll show clips and parts of it. The part of that rally that he was talking about was one of his fundamental campaign positions, border.
Yeah.
And so they panned in because he's about to talk about the border. And literally, as soon as they panned in, the shot off. I was watching the speech live on Real America's Voice. So they were showing the whole speech anyway. And I wasn't even by my computer. I was cleaning my room and it just had the noise going on in the background.
Yep.
And so you can imagine, all I heard was...
I love to tell this story.
And
I always love to hear when people were when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where I was. Phi Kappa Psi. GAC.
oh, man.
They're doing a shotgunning competition. And... all of a sudden, like, the two guys are into it. And then I hear a guy yell, "Hey, the Trump just got shot." And we're like, "What did he just say?" There's no way. He's like, "Yeah, Trump just got shot." And then he, like, shows everyone the phone of Trump's ear bleeding and stuff. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And, here's the crazy part. They're like, "Oh, man, they're a bunch of college students. They probably aren't very right-wing." As soon as we all figured out what was going on, we figured out he lived, everyone, like, did a toast to Trump. Then and there in the room. Everyone in there.
Yeah, I mean... I was at home, and downstairs they're watching a movie. I'm watching the rally, and I'm cleaning, and all I hear is pow, 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 right? And they say, "Gunshot just went off. Looks like the president was hit." That's all I hear. And when I go and I hit the corner, it's when I see Trump drop, and my heart drops, and I go, "They just killed Trump." Like that was the first. I said, "They just killed him." And I run out the room. I bust through, boom, run out the room, and I go, "They just killed Trump." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "He just got shot. He's down." Quickly, they get the remote, and they say, "Turn to CNN." We talk to the remote. Remote goes, "Okay." CNN pops up, right? And all you see is the crowd running. Trump is still on the ground. That's how quick. Because you know how quickly he got up.
Yeah.
But I ran so
That's
fast
saying something, because,
that they turned the TV quickly. And he's down, and my grandma was like, "Oh, my goodness. This is about to start something that we're not prepared for." And all of a sudden, you see him. Right? You see that fight. Like, you see him get up, and it's just a moment in America where we were like, we won. It was in that moment.
I think that was my profile picture till around Election Day, actually.
Yeah. Because we won. That was my wallpaper on my phone. We won. That was what needed to happen, like you said, to get the base up, to boost them around, and win that election.
And then, Biden dropped out a little bit later.
And Biden was like, "Okay, yeah, no, this man's taking bullets for democracy. I got to get out of here," and drops out the race. But it was in that moment where, like you said, the Republican Party was more united than ever. Mm-hmm. Independents were like, "Wait a minute, they're trying to kill this man? Yeah, this is our guy."
But once again, that goes into today. Where do we stand? It's been 100 days, more than 100 days now into Trump's presidency. And while I'd love to say that it's been amazing, like the best thing ever, it really hasn't been. Gas prices aren't going down very much. They're actually still at the same level they were before Trump got into office, at least here in Houston.
In Houston, yeah.
When it comes to groceries, I mean, there has been some drops, but it's still not pre-COVID level dropped. When it comes to the party as a whole, I mean, it's frankly very disunited. There's a lot of infighting going on. We're a lot more stable than the Democrats are because we have we have control of all three parts of government, the executive,
nothing's getting done.
Exactly, because we have no unity.
Yeah. So, and this was one of the things we talked about.
And I told you, it was going to be just like 2016 all over again. We could have won everything, but due to infighting, we're not going to get anything done.
This is what we talked about on the first show. We said, hey, Republicans, there's no excuses anymore. Like, we can't make any excuses for them. And we're watching prices come down in states. Texas, we were fairly already low.
Yeah, because we produce a lot of our own stuff here.
But you look at Georgia. Georgia's gas prices have gone down 26%. Right? So you look at each state and you go, okay, each state, the economy is doing what it needs to do. slowly but surely.
But unfortunately, one thing I will
Slowly but surely.
point out is housing is going to be going up in price by a lot.
The housing market, I think,
And do you know why that is?
is not going to get fixed though by.
No, that's not what I'm
the
referring
president.
to. It's because of the tariffs currently. Unfortunately, most of the materials used in construction, at least here in Texas, come from the Chinese. And you could say that's not a good thing. We
It's
should be
not.
using American-made only. But there's a reason why we use Chinese, because it's cheap and it's very plentiful. But due to these tariffs, it's going to take time for supply chains to adjust. And what's going to be the cause of that?
prices have to go up.
In Texas, at least.
But the problem with that is, so the 90-day pause was put on other countries that had tariffs on us because they took their tariffs off of us. China does not have the economy to last the fight. So we could say, yeah, prices are going to go up now, but what happens long term?
Oh, I'll tell you what the Chinese will do. You know what they'll do?
Long term,
No.
they have to cave. It has to happen.
It's a very simple idea in economics. It's you just avoid tariffs between using a intermediary nation. For example, Russia, the Russian Federation, as you are aware, has a lot of sanctions due to the war in Ukraine.
Right.
A few years ago, a friend of mine bought some clothing from Russia, and even in theory, he wouldn't be able to buy it at all because of the sanctions. No, this is what happened. They avoided the sanctions, or in this situation, tariffs, by going to Abu Dhabi and then from there to the U.S. And then down to Texas.
Yeah.
Same thing's gonna happen with China. China's gonna, instead of giving it straight to the U.S., where it'd be very.
That's the same thing America's doing, and so it's literally like it's just a trade war.
But it's different. You know
cracking
why?
down on that, and
Because China sends more things to the U.S. than the U.S. sends to China.
but what happens is there's a 90-day pause on these tariffs. And this is what we're hoping Trump does, right? This is not guaranteed. This is just if I was president, how I'd handle it. Knowing that China could still go other places. You go to other countries and go, hey, my economy outweighs the Chinese economy for your benefit. Either you stop them from backdooring my tariffs, or I'm going to put a tariff on you. And now it's double tariff. So you tell me how you want to do it. And that's what originally Trump's plan was. And then these countries are like, wait a minute, we'll take the tariffs off of you if you take the tariffs off of us. And that's what's happening. So I think the Chinese USA thing, it's going to be like playing it's chess. It's a chess game.
Yeah.
And who is going to win? The difference is we get a new leader in 4 years.
Yep.
The Chinese aren't.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just that whole part of the world right now. It's really crazy. I mean, the Chinese are ramping up their militarization of the South China Sea. For you can probably guess what reason, which is
Taiwan.
Exactly. What happens if a straight war happens, like a war across the strait?
I couldn't imagine
Do you know how much shipping goes through the South China Sea?
a lot.
A third of all global maritime trade goes through the South China Sea.
But that's why I said I can't imagine it. I can't imagine. First off, let's cut that part off, right? Let's take away the amount of the trading that goes through the South China Sea. The world as we know it, can it survive an American-Chinese war?
Yes, it can. Will it prosper? No, though. That's the issue.
Yeah. So we can't afford that. They can't afford that. The world cannot afford that.
But here's the thing. It's not about being able to afford
And
it.
we're not going to fire the first shot.
It's not about being able to afford it straight away. It's about, are you willing to die for Taiwan? That's what the thing's going to be with China. And most Americans...
We're not going to fire the first shot, though.
It doesn't matter. Would you be willing...
And
for example...
we're not going to... I think when it really comes down to it, the American people are not going to be happy or satisfied with us sending over American troops to Taiwan to basically die for something that's not theirs. We, as the United States of America, are not affected by it, so why are we dying for it?
Oh, you would... I mean...
Which is why we didn't send troops to Ukraine. It should be
Well, that's different, though. Ukraine is a backwater country in Europe who lost 75% of the aid we gave them to corruption. Taiwan is a modern... very modern industrialized country. Are you familiar with the semiconductor whole situation? Every single advanced semiconductor comes from Taiwan. Every single one.
But once again, this is not a war for the benefit of the American people. It's a benefit for the powers that be. That's why I'm against it.
But like I said, I'm not going to lie to you. I'll be very open about it. I'm very 50-50 on involvement in the Chinese war. Or if a war in China did happen, involvement in it. Because I look at it geopolitically. Taiwan keeps China in check. It keeps Chinese naval power restricted to their coastline.
Absolutely.
Because what happens? We have the island chain. From down to the Philippines all the way up to Japan. That entire chain is blocked off, and Chinese ships can't get through it without the U.S. knowing about it. What happens if Taiwan falls?
Taiwan falls, they get to advance.
Which means the entire Pacific now is open to Chinese ships, which just as like we harass Chinese operations in the South China Sea.
They can harass us. It goes back and forth, which is why I was like, it's not smart to do. I genuinely think, though, that the Chinese military strength is overplayed. I don't think they're as strong.
Paper tiger?
Yeah, I think it's a paper tiger. Just how in the beginning Russia was looking like a paper tiger against Ukraine. Like there was, I think that it won't fully fight and stand against America.
Well, here's the thing, though.
But if it does happen, if America goes to war with China, it's like a domino effect. Everything's got to fall now, because the American allies will join in on the fight, which make you go, okay, who are the Chinese allies? Who is a friend of China, and who isn't a friend of China? And I think that is the war that starts World War III, not Russia, Ukraine.
Well, the thing with
Israel,
Russia,
Palestine.
well, here's the issue.
None of that. America, China starts.
Well, the thing with Russia, first of all, Russia, Ukraine, that war is ending pretty soon.
Yeah,
that's not going to start any new wars unless Zelensky like nukes Russia or something, like he steals a nuke or something. Because fun fact, Ukraine used to have nukes. Who knows? They kept one for safekeeping.
They're like, we saved this one just for you, Putin.
Like Putin's visiting Kiev after the Russian troops take, and then boom, just nuke goes off. Israel-Palestine is too local of a conflict. The close I would get to that expanding from a regional war to not even world war, just super regional, where it involves powers outside of that immediate area, would be an Iran war.
Yeah.
Iran gets involved, and by extension Saudi Arabia, and then all of the world's oil now is at stake, and peacekeeping mission happens.
Right.
At that point, though, I don't think the Chinese and Russians will get involved just because they don't have a bone in the game.
Right.
So, wouldn't be a world war.
That's why America and China, that is the only...
What about India and Pakistan?
It's regional.
But unfortunately, Pakistan is close friends with China. India falls. What does that mean for America?
Do you genuinely... that's just a regional thing, and it hasn't gotten to the level of extremity. Like, India and Pakistan, if they do go at it, and they do fight, and let's say Pakistan wins, India falls, we lose an ally.
Well, that's the issue.
Well,
India wouldn't fall per se.
Is India in NATO?
No.
See? So, my biggest concern is for a NATO country to get put in war.
But do you know why NATO, that whole thing is such a big deal? Article 5, correct? Mm-hmm. Article 5 doesn't mean we have to go to war with that country. It means we respond with force that we deem necessary.
But if America goes to war with China, France, the UK, they will put their boots on Chinese.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Because of how Article 5
Yes,
works.
they
It's
do.
the reason why when we went to Afghanistan...
They're not going to let America fight.
This is why when
it's not going to happen.
No, let me finish. This is why when we went into Iraq, NATO didn't go in with us. Only the UK did, and a few smaller countries. Because NATO isn't obligated to...
It's Iraq.
What's up?
It's Iraq, though.
Exactly.
This is China we're talking
Think about it. That'd be
Everyone
it's
wants
easy
to put their hands on China.
easy brownie points to basically win a war with America, right there. You go to war with China, you lose all your trade, your economy goes down the crapper because now you lose all of that stuff. Because you have to remember, Americans, we get our stuff shipped to China from China. Europeans, they don't. They get land routes from China, so their trade's going to get cut off a lot quicker. They're going to be a lot more impacted than the U.S. is. If you look at a map of trade, most of Europe, if not all of Europe at this point, I believe, gets most of trade from China than the U.S.
China is powerful. But again, if you think they're going to put China over America, you're crazy. It's not going to happen.
No, I'm thinking they're going to pick neutrality. That's my thing.
No.
You know why?
No.
Russia's a big back tiger. That's why.
Who's the president when this happens?
Trump.
The moment France and the UK and all of them decide to pick neutrality, I see Trump going after them as well.
How's he going to go after them at that point?
Economic.
It ain't going to matter. We're at war with China at that point. Economics doesn't matter anymore.
Yes, but that's the thing. It matters to them. Even if this isn't a gunfight, even if this isn't a full-on gunfight just yet, Trump goes over there and says, hey, if you don't do something about this, who was paying for NATO?
In theory, the Americans are, but...
Who was paying for the United Nations?
Actually, I don't think we are anymore.
It's us.
The Chinese are starting to pay a lot for a lot of that stuff.
It's us.
For example, WHO...
We're still We're still paying. We pulled out of the World Health Organization. That's not the United Nations.
But it falls under the UN.
But it's not. But most of the money for the UN and NATO comes from the American.
But when you say the U.S. gives money to NATO, that doesn't mean we're giving money to other countries per se. It just means we spend more of our GDP on our military.
The moment we pull out of the UN, the moment we pull out of NATO, these people come back crawling because you don't necessarily survive. You don't thrive. The world stops when America stops. We found that out during COVID. When China stopped, no one really cared. When the United States of America stopped, that's when the world started to care. And so I think we give too much power mentally to China. Because when it comes down to it, we have to remember that the United States of America is not just some country. We ourselves are also a superpower.
Yep.
We're also a superpower. And so I just don't see anyone sitting back and watching.
But here's the issue. We're a superpower spread thin. If a war with China and Russia happened, what's going to happen? U.S. has to go to both theaters. I don't think Europe alone could beat the Russians. I'm not going to lie to you. They don't have the
Russians?
Yeah. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the equipment for it.
You said all of Europe?
All of Europe.
Germany, France, the UK.
How big do you think the German army is?
It's not about how big an army is, though.
Oh, but it is because they don't have the equipment either. They don't have the people and they don't have the equipment.
But we saw what the Russian army alone, not the Russian army alone, the Ukraine army alone was able to do.
How many Russian troops are in Ukraine right now?
I can give you a number.
Just take a guess.
I couldn't give you a number.
It's not about it being right. It's about you just, for clarity's sake, like, well, how many do you think are in there?
I want to say over 100,000.
Okay. How many troops do you think Ukraine has?
Couldn't tell you. Now that I
few
want
million.
to say, yeah.
Obviously, most of those are reservists. Point is, they have more troops in Ukraine than the Russians do.
But
who's conscripting and who's not conscripting?
Europe, we are aware of how many, countries are in Europe. How many? That's what, 3 million? That's at minimum. Well, no, because Germany likes to neutrality. Didn't they go neutral in the Russia-Ukraine?
Yes, because of the whole. Here's the issue. I genuinely think if Europe wants to do anything against Russia, they will not survive the winter. And that's not me saying, they're going to invade Russia during the winter. No.
Well, that's we know that Russia wins in the winter because of
that's not what I mean.
World War II.
And that's not what I'm referring to either. I'm talking economically. Who gives most of the natural gas to Europe?
Russia. That's why when the pipeline was cut off, they were
literally worrying about freezing to death over the winter.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen here. They economically can't go against Russia or else they freeze to death in the winter because they have no way of heating their homes. When the Americans were like, you shouldn't build this pipeline, Trump told them, don't build this pipeline. What happened?
They did it anyway.
And look at them now.
They were kind of mad at Trump for telling them what to do.
Yep.
Which is why we were so against the Keystone Pipeline. And that's why when this trade war with America...
You mean Nord Stream?
Nord Stream Prime, sorry. The Nord Stream Prime. When Canada and America got into an argument, there was, talk about Canada possibly being able to shut off Americans' power. Why does a country give that much power to another country over its own people? I have no clue. I just... That's the side of politics where I'm like, there's no one's thinking.
Oh, here's the thing. It works from an economic perspective. Like, you believe war is a thing of the past and you're no longer going to go to war. Why does giving the keys to your power plant matter if they're not going to turn it off, if it's way cheaper? It's about saving money at that point.
Yeah.
And if you don't think you're going to go to war, security risk has gone by extension, so there's no reason not to. But when it comes to Europe, I genuinely think you're overestimating how many forces they can muster very quickly. I think the German armed forces are like around 80,000.
Germany doesn't have a big military.
How big do you think the standing Russian army is?
They're at least 1 million.
Exactly.
They're at least 1 million.
Germany's the biggest military power. I think maybe Poland might be a bit bigger now, but...
Poland?
Yeah.
Bigger than Russia.
Germany.
Oh, Germany, okay. But my thing is, the Russian army is big, but is the morale high?
Yes, actually.
But
it's because of all the...
Not right now. Oh. I'm saying, the European war happens. How high is that morale? And this is assuming that this happens anytime soon, which I
within the 5 years, would you say? Just for the hypothetical?
If we're doing within the 5 years, okay, maybe. I'm viewing this because Putin's got to go. One day, Putin's going to croak. He's going to fall over and, kick the bucket.
I mean, as we all do, as you said that one time.
At the end of the day, folks, the day gonna end. And in the morning, the sun will rise. And when it does not, Putin has died. And that's okay, because, Brian, it's 11 o'clock. And what I have found out in, just doing the show 100 days of Trump's presidency, if these wars and all this does happen, I only have two things to worry about.
Here we go.
I only have two things to worry about, folks. Let me tell you what they are. In life, there's only two things you need to worry about. Are you healthy or are you sick? If you're healthy, you have nothing to worry about. But if you're sick, you got two things to worry about. Will it get better or will it get worse? If it gets better, you have nothing to worry about. But if it gets worse, then there's only two things you have to worry about. Will you live or will you die? If you're going to live, then Brian, you have nothing to worry about. But if you die, you got two things to worry about. Are you going to heaven or are you going to hell? If you're going to heaven, Brian, you have nothing to worry about. But if you're going to hell, you got two things to worry about. Is it too late to get saved? Or am I right on time? If you're right on time, then you got nothing to worry about. But if it's too late, then you got two things to worry about. Are you healthy or are you unhealthy? So at the end of the day, folks, in life, you only have, hold your twos up, Brian. Let the people see the two. Show them the two, Brian.
I think
there's only two things to worry about, folks. And right now, folks, there's only two things to worry about. Did you enjoy the show or did you not enjoy the show? And if you did enjoy the show, then you got nothing to worry about. Folks, thank you for tuning in.
You forgot the best part. And if you didn't enjoy the show,
you got two things to worry about. Are you a liberal? Or did you just not pay attention? And if you didn't pay attention, just go rewatch it and you have nothing to worry about. But if you're a liberal, you got a lot more than two things to worry about.
And there we go. And that's the show right
And that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning into the Patriots Den, a Radiodabang, a Mike Kahn presentation. I'm your host, Patrick Prudhomme. I'm here with my amazing, wonderful co-host,
Brian Fuentes.
Folks, thank you for tuning in. We can't wait to catch you all on the next one, and we will see what is going on in politics then. Y'all have a good rest of the day.